back to Midnight Futurist. Tonight, we invite you to drift across time to a quiet morning in the year 2160. The world has changed, and with it, so have the rituals of nourishment. There is no breakfast table, no plates, no forks, no soft crackling of toast. In the vertical depths of Neo-Tokyo, the air itself feeds you. Imagine a world where food is no longer chewed, but gently breathed, where nutrition is no longer a choice, but a steady whisper in the atmosphere. Tonight's journey is not urgent, is not thrilling, is simply slow and strange and soft. You'll awaken inside a skybound dwelling, step into the mist of your morning meal, and trace the story of how eating, as we once knew it, became obsolete. We'll meet the mind behind this breath-borne sustenance. We'll drift into a mystery of hallucinations appearing in the fog. And finally, we'll glimpse a place where food still has flavour, hidden high in the forbidden hills. So, if you're ready, let's step quietly into the future. Let us begin with the morning. The light does not start with the sun. It's a glow, a gradual pulse in the ceiling membrane of your vertical pod residence, some 390 floors above the original street level of what was once Tokyo. The air is cool, not from weather, but from the precisely tuned circulation grid that breathes with you as you sleep. Your bed is horizontal, but your room is vertical. Its walls ripple faintly, responding to the first stirrings of your breath. Outside your window, an endless cascade of aerial footbridges, vertical gardens, and drone rail monorails slides by in near silence. Neo-Tokyo does not roar. It hums, softly, constantly. You rise. Your muscles feel rested. You haven't digested anything in days, at least not in the old sense. You step barefoot into the first chamber of your pod. The floor reads your temperature. The walls recognize your gaze. With no switch or command, the nutrient fog begins. A hiss, delicate as silk, fills the air with a translucent mist. Slightly cool, slightly sweet. It shimmers faintly in the soft light. You don't eat it, you breathe it. Each inhale delivers a precisely formulated microdose of protein, slow sugars, gentle fat analogues, trace minerals, and today a whisper of cocoa. You feel no hunger, only a settling, a quiet sense that something within you has been quietly filled. There is no chewing, no bite to take, no utensil, and no waste. The fog lingers for exactly 4 minutes and 18 seconds, a gentle rhythm matched to your breathing patterns stored in cloud memory. Some call it the breath fast, others simply don't speak of it, because it's just air, it's just life now. You walk through it, slowly rotating your shoulders, stretching your arms. The mist curls around your skin, biocompatible, pH neutral, moisturizing. This is how mornings begin now, in silence, in vapor, in calm calibration. Down below, the city's digistructural core adjusts airflow to account for the rising warmth of the sun. But you will never feel that sun directly, not here, not 390 floors high. Instead, you turn to the window and sip the distant light with your eyes. That's all the body needs now, just the breath and a little glow. Your AI assistant does not speak unless spoken to. It knows you prefer silence before 10 a.m. It offers a visual pulse on the side wall, an update. You've absorbed 89% of your daily nutritional requirements in under 5 minutes. Later, you'll have a noon mist and an evening vapor with notes of basil and cherry kernel oil. For now, you stretch. You let the fog disperse. You sip a glass of cool, flavourless hydration gel, still necessary for lung moisture balance. And then you step into the rest of your day. There There are no groceries, there is no kitchen, there is only you, the breath you take, and the city that feeds you from the air itself. As the mist recedes and the hum of the rail gliders begins to rise outside, we turn our thoughts toward the one who gave us this strange inheritance. She was never meant to be famous. Born in the quiet folds of Nagano Prefecture in 2097, Ayumu Sato grew up among the trees. Her family lived off-grid, not from ideology, but necessity. A landslide had severed their village from the main grid for 2 decades, and by the time it was restored, most residents had long since learned how to do without. Ayumu was quiet even as a child. She didn't dislike people, exactly, but she preferred systems, weather patterns, soil memory, breathing rhythms. She watched her grandmother spend entire afternoons boiling greens, drying mushrooms, turning meals into rituals. But Ayumu never found comfort in food. She found it inefficient. By the time she entered university, she had already published her first paper on digestive latency in urbanized populations. Professors scoffed politely. It was well written, yes, but strange. She wasn't deterred. Her doctoral thesis came 5 years later. Atmospheric ingestion and the bioconversion of vaporized nutrition. It was at best a theoretical provocation. Even Ayumu knew it sounded impossible, using air as a medium for nutrition, not just scent or aerosol medication, but sustenance. Complete, balanced, inhalable. Still, she tested it. Not with people, initially with moss, then with mice. Over time, and with the help of bioengineers curious enough to be paid in cryptocurrency, she built what would later become the Sato Dome. It was the size of a greenhouse and housed nothing but a fog, and life began to grow inside it. First, slow, then steadily. By 2100 in LUFS, the world had caught up with her. Agricultural failures were compounding. Urbanization had outpaced infrastructure. Cities like Lagos, Jakarta, and parts of New York were losing access to fresh food entirely, not from famine, but from logistics. Freight collapse, waste overflow. The supply chain had snapped under its own weight, and Sato's quiet solution, developed far from attention, suddenly made sense. Etherdyne Corp approached her not with a grant, but with a lab, an altitude-controlled facility floating above Kyoto. There, she fine-tuned the protocol that would change everything. The Inhale Protocol, a blend of bioprofiled macronutrients, micronized and carried in a neutral vapor medium. In short, breathable food. The early trials were met with disbelief, then hesitation, then fascination. Subjects reported unexpected benefits, not just stable nutrition, but calmer moods, steadier attention, even dream enhancement. In post-trial interviews, many described the experience not as eating, but being fed by the air itself. By 2140, Neo-Tokyo became the first city to integrate Inhale Protocol towers into its infrastructure. Fog diffusers were installed in every residence tower from floor 100 upward. Nutrition was no longer an activity. It became ambience. But what truly made Sato remarkable wasn't the invention. It was her restraint. She refused to patent her core formula. She released it open source, citing in a quiet interview, "I didn't invent this for profit. I invented it because I was tired of chewing." In time, she disappeared from public view. She returned to Nagano, to a smaller version of the dome where it all began. She lived alone, nourished by the very air she had reshaped. No visitors, no headlines, just fog and silence. When she passed in 2156, the media barely noticed. Only one note appeared in the Global Digest. "Ayumu Sato, age 59, has faded." That was the word used. Faded. As if she had become vapor herself. But in Neo-Tokyo, dozen other fog cities, she is remembered every morning, not through monuments, but through breath. Above Shinjuku, there is an invisible spire, only visible to drones and satellites, that releases a lavender mist at 5 a.m. local time. It lasts exactly 5 minutes. No sound, no announcement, just scent, subtle and familiar. Every day, millions inhale what she imagined, without ceremony, without hunger, without even knowing her name. But you know now, and as your own breath calibrates to the second mist of the day, you notice something, only slightly, perhaps a flicker of memory. It happens to some. They call it the sudden fog syndrome. At first, it was a whisper, figurative, of course, the kind of quiet rumour that passes between neighbours with slightly nervous eyes, or buried deep in sub-threads of filtered discussion boards. The fog had always been predictable. It was engineered to be chemically neutral, behaviourally passive. No surprises. But then, people began to see things. Not often, not for long. Just flashes, a silhouette, a flicker of motion at the edge of vision. A memory that didn't belong to them. It usually happened during the first or last fog cycle of the day, when the air was still, the light indirect, the brain slow from sleep or softened by fatigue. Some residents reported feeling as if they were being watched gently. Others claimed they saw someone standing across the room, just briefly, before the mist dissolved them. The phenomenon didn't cause fear exactly. It was more like deja vu dipped in fog. For a long while, officials dismissed the claims as transitional hypoxia or dream lag, a term used to explain the mild cognitive misalignments that occasionally occur when waking into high elevation structures like the upper tiers of Neo-Tokyo. After all, nothing about the fog itself had changed. Lab tests showed no anomalies. Chemical purity remained exact. AI regulators found no fault in diffusion patterns, but the sightings continued, sparse but consistent, and disturbingly similar. They began calling it sudden fog syndrome. No one knows who coined the term. It appeared first in an anonymous report from a level 200 residence tower, tagged quietly on a private caregiver interface. Within months, the term had made its way into underground city scenes, whispered across analogue broadcasts, and, inevitably, turned into a myth. The syndrome had no pain profile, no lasting symptoms. People saw something, then they didn't. The events were always brief and oddly poetic. A lost parent appearing for a heartbeat in the mist, a younger version of the self sitting in the corner, legs crossed, smiling, a stranger's outline, still and calm, watching through the translucent air. Some scientists theorized that the vaporized nutrient clusters, floating in dense spoke of symbols, faces, even brief shared hallucinations between two people in the same space. And still, no one died. No one was hurt. The fog didn't frighten. It remembered. There is one theory, unproven and unapproved, that lingers in academic shadow rooms, that the fog itself, across billions of daily inhalations, has become a kind of emotional archive. Not intelligent exactly, but responsive. Not thinking, but reflecting. A mirrored haze of the collective subconscious. Drifting, dissolving, returning. You've never seen anything yourself, not yet, but there are moments during your morning mist or the quieter, dream-heavy evening cycle where you pause, you look across the room, you think you see motion, just a flicker, a presence you could almost name, then it's gone. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was your brain adjusting to another mist, another day. Or maybe the fog is learning. Far from Neo-Tokyo, up in the folds of an ancient mountain range, there's a place where fog is forbidden, where food is still touched, chopped and swallowed. A place where people remember what it means to bite. Let's go there next. They don't call it rebellion. Not here. Not high in the valleys of the eastern Himalayas, where the fog doesn't rise, and the air bites at your throat with its thinness. There's no manifesto carved into stone, no speeches about anti-modernism, just a simple rule etched on a weathered wooden sign near the entry footpath, barely legible through the moss. No miss beyond this point. The commune, as it's simply known, doesn't appear on maps, digital or otherwise. It's not hidden in the dramatic sense. It just doesn't want to be found unless you truly intend to. Tucked between collapsed satellite stations and the ruins of a defunct weather observatory, this community lives as if the future took a different turn, one with steam, fire and flavour. Here a morning begins, not with nutrient mist, but with smoke. Not the harsh sting of pollution, but the clean burn of pine wood in a stone oven. The soundscape is unfamiliar to anyone born in the fog-fed cities. Crackling fire, metal pots against stone, the soft footsteps of people carrying water uphill. The aroma is almost disorienting. Toasted grain, root vegetables, preserved citrus peels boiling into broth. You wake to the scent of your meal being prepared, not diffused, not inhaled, but cooked. Loud even. Your stomach, unaccustomed to the slow patience of digestion, protests slightly, but you welcome it. It is proof that you are still made of something that responds to heat and salt and the slow burn of actual nourishment. Your host, a quiet man named Keshi, serves breakfast with both hands. The bowl is heavy, mismatched pottery, still wet from washing. Inside is something unnameable unless you've tasted it before. Root mash, wild herbs, fermented tofu, and a savoury paste so spicy it makes your eyes water before you've even tried it. The first bite is jarring, not unpleasant, just vivid. Texture returns like an old friend you forgot you missed. There's crunch, resistance, layers. You have to chew. Your jaw, lazy from years of vapour meals, strains slightly, and yet something in your mind awakens. Slowly, not cognitively, but emotionally. Keshi doesn't speak at first. He simply nods and returns to his station, where he continues cutting something with a blade so old it has no shine left. Around him, others cook in silence, not because they're being quiet, but because they are present. Every member of the commune contributes to the food cycle. They grow it, tend it, harvest it, dry it, pickle it, ferment it. Nothing is synthetic. Light is natural. Heat is from fire. Refrigeration is manual, using deep ice faults dug long before satellites charted the region. And yes, life is harder, more uncertain. There are crop failures, there are injuries. The altitude wears the body down faster. But it is real, utterly, viscerally real. Once or twice a year, someone from the cities finds their way up, usually a technician or an off-duty academic, hoping to remember what a real meal tastes like. They're welcomed, but only under one condition. They must bring seeds. Not data, not currency, seeds. For every seed brought, a meal is shared. No matter how rare or how common the seed, it is honoured, and it is planted carefully, as if it carries a memory that cannot be digitised. Children born here have never tasted mist. When asked what they think of the idea, they squint, confused. Why would you eat the air? One small girl asked a visitor, the story goes, as she chewed on a stalk of pickled radish like it was candy. Their parents sometimes smile at that, because most of them remember. They were not born here. They chose this life, and in doing so, they left something behind. Ease, convenience, safety. In exchange, they gained flavour, tradition, weight, not in calories, in meaning. There are no monuments in the commune, no broadcasts, no memory spires or lavender mist at dawn. Just a shared fire, a passed down knife, and a belief that some things, like the bite of real food, should never be forgotten. Far below, the fog continues. It feeds billions. It saves time. It eases hunger. It is quiet. But up here, above the clouds, people still taste their mornings. And sometimes, at night, when the wind is just right, it carries a scent down the valley. Rich, earthy, strange. And somewhere in a tower far below, a person stirs from their misty sleep, with the sudden memory of garlic and smoke. Down below, in the layered silence of Neo-Tokyo's vertical hive, the fog continues to pulse. Soft, automatic, invisible. It flows through every pod, every rail corridor, every quiet morning. It has become part of the rhythm of life, indistinguishable from the air itself. People wake. They breathe. They are fed. Without choice. Without mess. Without pause. But tonight, as we drift back from the high plateaus of the Himalayas, where fire still crackles and spoons still scrape bowls, something lingers. It's not just the contrast. It's not about which is better, fog or food, breath or bite. It's about remembering that even in a future shaped by precision and vapour, there are still pockets of sensation that resist being flattened, that the human experience was never designed to be entirely efficient. That meaning sometimes lies in the chewing. Dr. Sato once wrote, "What we remove to make life easier may be the very thing that makes it full." She believed in the beauty of simplification, but even she understood what we choose not to erase matters just as much as what we innovate. In the fog, there is quiet, calm, consistency, a kind of whispered communion with the systems that care for us. But in the act of biting, of holding weight in your hand, of choosing what to swallow, there is something more primal, less safe, perhaps, but also more alive. The future we visited tonight is not one of dystopia or perfection. It is a future of shapes, round bowls and diffused halos, fire-stained palms and touchscreen interfaces. It is shadow of a figure in the fog, the flicker of garlic in a pan. Perhaps tomorrow you'll inhale your breakfast without a thought, or maybe you'll chew a little slower, with more attention, with more thanks, because whether through breath or bite, the future still feeds us, and sometimes the past still tastes sweet. This has been Midnight Futurist. Until next time, rest well, drift forward, and may your dreams be